Hey everybody, and thank you for checking out my video. Don't forget to like and subscribe on our Nerd Nation channel, and let's make this one a good one. Back in January of 2012, the CW was looking for its successor to its widely popular show, Smallville, not by me of course. And with the success and popularity of the Green Arrow character on Smallville, they wanted to spin off the original Green Arrow from Smallville, but then decided to go a different route, a darker route. Kingsburg, Berlanti, and Guggenheim all came together to form the pilot episode for Arrow in 2012 and aired in October of that same year. To a lot of critically acclaimed success and positive buzz, this show now would go on to spawn years and years called the Arrowverse, 8 seasons of the Arrowverse later, and up to 6 shows. This all started with one man, one hood, one bow, and the city that he failed. This is my top 10 villain of the Arrowverse. My number 10 actually comes from last season on Supergirl, and this isn't the person you're probably thinking of. However, I feel like my number 10 needs to be somebody who impressed me and clawed their way onto this list, but I could not necessarily hold off this list because it was that impressive. That man is Agent Liberty. Agent Liberty last season on Supergirl was just a very good villain. You almost wanted to root for him, but then he reminded you he was the bad guy. His story was one of being manipulated, having prejudice, and what happens when you are blinded by those things that control you. It did get kind of wonky towards the end of the season when he took the serum and he became super strong and became addicted to it, or was going to die from it, one of the two. But all in all, I like the story that they told with this character. I think Agent Liberty was utilized very well, and I think this season of Supergirl upped their game a lot in storytelling and in their villains. Next up, my number 9 is going to be a frequent flyer of the Flash show, as well as maybe a couple appearances on Legends of Tomorrow. That would be Gorilla Grodd. In Grodd we trust, as he says. This villain's always been a fan favorite, ever since the first season when Flash had to face off against him in the sewers. I kinda like the twist they took on it, that he was made from the particle accelerator, but he was also Harrison Wells, aka Eobard Thawne's lab experiment at Star Labs, so he knew Caitlin and Cisco. But also I loved Gorilla City. I like some of the storytelling that they did in Legends of Tomorrow. Even though it seems like Gorilla Grodd gets thrown around a bunch, I do think he comes in places where he needs to. I mean, this recent season with Gorilla Grodd versus King Shark was pretty cool. I think they could have upped the epicness, but I also think it was just enough to have some animal action in the streets of Central City. I hope to see more from Gorilla Grodd in the future of The Flash, and maybe build a little bit more upon the character. So my number 8 is going to be Adrian Chase, the Prometheus, from Season 5 of Arrow. Season 5 of Arrow was really a return to form from Season 1 and 2. Adrian Chase's Prometheus was more of a linear threat rather than a escalated threat like Damian Darhk and Ra's al Ghul. Prometheus was just as cunning and smart and as ruthless as Oliver Queen was. And the great thing about Adrian Chase is that he just played such a great bad guy. I didn't like the fact that we knew Adrian Chase throughout the whole beginning of the season before it was revealed it was him, but I feel like the payoff at the end was much better. I feel like Adrian was the right villain to kill off at the end, because a return from him in the main continuity just wouldn't have the same sticking power as it did the first time. In my opinion, there were not many villains on Arrow that were just as good as Prometheus, and I feel like that he was a very good example of what that show could have done with villains if given the proper time. My lucky number 7 is going to be a tricky one to explain, because he was pretty bad, in my opinion, on Arrow, but fantastic on Legends of Tomorrow. So, you know this man as Damian Darhk. Now, I want to be very clear that, yes, Damian Darhk on Arrow and his story arc in Season 4 was not that great. However, the Damian Darhk we got on Legends of Tomorrow Season 3 was amazing. He was funny, he was pretty cruel, but then him and his daughter were teaming up. And it was just such a fun, villain to watch progress and actually legitimately turned in the end to more of an anti-hero, but still was bad. So I had a lot of fun with Damian Darhk in Legends of Tomorrow Season 4, and I just really enjoyed his whole arc there. So I know a lot of people are going to crucify me about Arrow Season 4 and him, but I'm not even considering that in this one. And technically, I think it's a different version of Damian Darhk anyway, because the other Damian Darhk was dead from Arrow. So, come at me, bruh. Number 6 on this list is going to be someone who's probably a fan favorite of Zamario and Ginger's. It is going to be last season's Supergirl, Manchester Black. Manchester Black was a great villain for the Martian Manhunter, but I just felt like overall he was a great villain in general. He was conflicted, he had reasons for what he was doing. The actor who portrayed him was just spot on. There were moments where I felt conflicted for him, and then there were moments where I'm like, wow, he's a real dick. I never really felt like his character was all over the place, but I did feel like this character knew exactly what he was doing. I was really sad when they got rid of him towards the end of the season. Hopefully, whatever they did with him with that Martian staff, he'll be able to come back from eventually. But Manchester Black was definitely one of those characters that I was compelled to like, or just to like to hate. I felt for him, as well as I wanted Martian Manhunter to punch him in the face. And don't even get me started on the Elite from that season. I felt really bad that he got stuck with that group of Elite. I really feel like they should have dedicated a whole season of Supergirl versus the Elite. But he just kind of got shifted off to a sub-boss for Martian Manhunter. I was actually a fan of the Superman vs. the Elite animated movie that came out a couple years back, and I liked Manchester Black in that one too. So I think this was a great character. I hope they bring him back, and there is a possibility of him coming back. So cheers to our favorite English bad guy from Supergirl, and hopefully he buggers off and comes on back. I probably butchered that, but whatever. On to the next. So for our halfway point of number 5, we're going to go all the way back to Season 1 of the Arrowverse. And we're going to talk about the overarching villain in Arrow Season 1, Malcolm Merlyn. Now, although Malcolm Merlyn wasn't exactly the best villain in Season 1, although he was good, I still think I like the character growth of Malcolm Merlyn throughout the rest of the series. Him being a part of the Legion of Doom and Season 2 of Legends of Tomorrow, to him essentially trying to protect and train Thea throughout a lot of his arc in the Arrowverse, then eventually becoming Ra's al Ghul, then losing his hand to Oliver. Malcolm Merlyn was one of those villains that just was overarching, whether he was a good guy, bad guy, anti-hero, frenemy, whatever you want to call him. But he was actually a really funny character at times. Barrowman was a great actor in this show, and he just did a great job with this character. There was a lot of growth from the beginning of Season 1 all the way till the end of whatever season he supposedly died in. So hats off to the original Arrowverse Archer villain, Malcolm Merlyn, because he gave Oliver the first taste of defeat. Because even though Oliver defeated him in combat, the undertaking was a complete success in leveling the Glade. We're now down to the Fatal 4. Number 4 on my list is the Thinker from Flash Season 4. I like this villain because after 3 seasons of speedster villains on The Flash, the Thinker was finally a villain that was not a speedster, but was an actual threat to the Flash. He had everything plotted out, and even when his plans went awry, he was still pretty adept on his feet. The only thing I did not like about the Thinker's arc was more so the fact that he was jumping from body to body until the end of the season. I kind of wish that he was absorbing powers and getting stronger, and eventually maybe absorbing Dibney's powers and being able to walk again, or so on and so forth. I did not like the body jumping portion of his arc, but I did like how they focused on his disability, and even though he was in that condition, he still was a threat to the Flash. The actor who played the Thinker was great, and I definitely think this is one of my favorite story arcs out of the Flash so far. Right up there, in my opinion, with Season 1. I know a lot of people disagree, I know a lot of people didn't like this season of the Flash, but I really believe that the Thinker was somebody who was outside the realm of what we had had before, and it worked in my opinion. We're going to kick off the top 3 with fan favorites for sure. And I say favorites as in plural because my number 3 is going to be Captain Cold and Heatwave from The Flash. Now, I know everyone says, Heatwave's a good guy. Captain Cold became a good guy. No. I'm talking about the OG Captain Cold and Heatwave from Season 1 of The Flash. And these two guys were great. So great that the fans demanded that Heatwave and Captain Cold be on Legends of Tomorrow. The bad guys had to be on a show consistently. And honestly, unfortunately, we did not get enough Captain Cold, in my opinion. But Heatwave has been kicking it around on Legends of Tomorrow for almost 5 years now. And he's been knocking it out of the park. I hope Mick never leaves that show. However, with Captain Cold, they're always trying to find an excuse to bring him back. And the thing about these two is that they always come as a pair. Captain Cold and Heatwave are definitely two of the best villains, and I just couldn't separate them. I had to have them together. Because when they were a villain duo, they were the best. And honestly, I feel like that these two could have done much more as villains, but honestly, I'm kind of glad that they were on Legends of Tomorrow, because not only do these actors just work really well together, especially with their previous run on Prison Break, but these two just do a great job bouncing off of one another, and I don't know, I really think that these guys are great. If any of you guys disagree with me, well, you're wrong. And there are plenty of fans to back up that opinion as well. So now we're down to the top two. And a lot of people are probably guessing who are the top two. Well, everybody probably knows what the top two are, but which order are they going to be in? My number 2 is the Reverse Flash. The Reverse Flash was introduced in a way in which he was in front of us the entire time. And we were all guessing in that first season, oh, is he bad? Is he good? We know he can walk, but is he actually bad? And eventually it was revealed that he was Eobard Thawne, the Reverse Flash. And we all knew he was a bad guy at that point. The Reverse Flash had this great story arc in which he executed to such perfection in Season 1. It was almost on a thinker's level of planning. Eobard Thawne was ruthless. He killed Cisco for crime and his sake, introduced a lot of metahumans and their powers, and he killed Barry's mom. I mean, the Reverse Flash was definitely the villain that Barry needed in Season 1. Not only that, but last season, when the Reverse Flash came back, the whole season was basically Eobard manipulating Nora Allen into getting rid of Cicada's dagger so he could escape just before his execution. Now, there are some time travel shenanigans with that I question. However, the way that it was presented was very well done. And I liked how the whole season was built up to that one moment. Maybe you could argue the fact that the Reverse Flash could have gotten out a little bit sooner, and then maybe the second half of the season was about fighting the Reverse Flash, and Cicada was the first half of the season, but I'm not getting into that. The Reverse Flash is a great villain, and I mean, Tom Cavanaugh is just amazing in that character. Every time he's on that screen, he captivates everyone on the set. And it's just like, he's so good. You love him and you hate him all at the same time. And I'm talking about Tom Cavanaugh, obviously not the Reverse Flash. The Reverse Flash is one of those, especially on Legends of Tomorrow, that I think was a missed opportunity. The Legion of Doom could have been done very well. And obviously the actor who plays the actual Eobard Thawne, who was in Legends of Tomorrow, is a great actor. And honestly, I feel like it was a missed opportunity for him to kind of show off his ability to be an evil leader of his own team, Reverse Flash. I think that a lot of the things that could have been done were just not done in retrospect. All in all, Reverse Flash is definitely the grade A villain that the Flash deserves. And my number 1 Arrowverse villain is going to be Weather Wizard. No, I'm kidding. That's not the one. My actual number 1 is going to be Alice from Batwoman season. No, I'm kidding again. Don't click off. Stop it. Please like and subscribe. My number 1 is obviously going to be Deathstroke from Arrow season 2. Let's talk about this villain. He was the best villain that Arrow could have ever asked for. The actor was fantastic. The setup was superb. We built up on him for 2 whole seasons. And although I feel like there was a misstep in the season finale with the Mirakuru and everything, I still feel like Deathstroke was just the right play at the right time for the Arrowverse at that point, because it was just at the point where they were getting ready to debut the Flash. He was definitely the perfect anti-Oliver at that point, and they had so much history together with Leanne Yu. Slade Wilson has always been a great fan favorite villain, whether it's Titans, whether it's Arrow, whether it's Teen Titans, you name it. Deathstroke has always been in the mix of things. And just for once, I would like for Oliver to call him Deadpool, just for poops and giggles. Deathstroke is one of those villains that was portrayed so well via the actor. He just radiated the vendetta that he had against Oliver. Their final fight was very personable and interesting. A lot of the backstory was also interesting, and we all knew it was coming. We watched the whole first season with Slade Wilson. We watched the whole second season with Slade Wilson in the flashback. We knew it was coming. And unfortunately, it happened. Well, unfortunately for Oliver, fortunate for us that it did happen. Slade Wilson set the bar so high that a lot of fans, including myself, did not think that they could ever top this villain, and really they haven't. They've come very close, in my opinion, with several other villains. However, Deathstroke will always go down in the annals of Arrowverse history as the best villain. Well, that wraps it up for this top 10. I kind of did this one just because Arrow started their final season, and there's so much content in the Arrowverse to just dive into and look at. The CW shows have been one of my favorite things to watch over the past couple years. And honestly, watching a lot of these villains test and trial our heroes has just been a pleasure. A lot of great actors have come out of these shows, and a lot of great actors have come into these shows. I would recommend that if you haven't checked out any of these CW shows, please do. There's a lot of good stuff in there, and yes, there are some misses, but there are also some great hits too. Please, everybody, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out our weekly Saturday morning podcast where we dive into nerdom news and try to figure out what the heck is going on in the nerd community, as well as give me any suggestions for these top 10s that you have. I'm always looking to improve. I'm always looking to try to figure out new ways to improve upon the content. I'm going to try to get these out more frequently, but with life sometimes that doesn't happen. So thank you all for tuning in. Give it a like and a subscribe if you're not already, and I appreciate your time.